He's made a career out of wearing tights and playing princes on stage. And yet, Guillaume rejects the notion that ballet is merely a world of pirouettes and prancing. Widely considered the best male dancer in the country, if not one of the best in Canadian history, the native Quebecer is now in his prime. Over the course of 8 months, 16 by 9 was granted rare behind-the-scenes access as Guillaume Côté took on a role that may define his career.
Sometimes the euphoria happens when you're alone by yourself. Sometimes it's not when people are watching. There's something beautiful about just coming in on a Saturday. You're just doing your solo and you're finding new moments and you're just so happy.
The vocabulary of movements for Guillaume Côté is limitless. With every extension and expression, precision, intention.
There have been very few who have that kind of reputation. I'd say he's in the top 5.
A rare talent who's leading a new generation of ballet dancers in Canada. And this season, he has to transform into his most challenging character yet. At the National Ballet of Canada, Guillaume has been cast as the lead in the North American premiere of the ballet Nijinsky.
It's probably the hardest ballet I've had to tackle ever in my career.
So we'll start from the beginning. Audiences in the theater, house lights are on, everybody's wondering what's going to happen.
Nijinsky is the masterpiece of famed choreographer John Neumeier, who has just flown in from Hamburg.
No. That's it. That I believe.
The ballet tells the story of Václav Nijinsky.
Nijinsky is a legend in the dance world.
Considered the best male dancer of the early 20th century, whose legendary jumps were said to suspend in air.
There's people who say he never touched the floor, he jumped forever.
Nijinsky was also an innovator. His choreography still performed to this day. But the tragedy behind the artist is that he was losing his mind, and by 29 was confined to an asylum. The artistic director of the National Ballet, Karen Kane.
The ballet begins with his final performance. The performance that they realize that they have to put him away.
I would have to say that probably the hardest part about this particular role is you have to go insane.
Neumeier, one of the foremost Nijinsky historians, scrutinizes every movement, every motivation.
The hands are actually just straightforward. Yeah, exactly. Be careful with your fingers. Turn here, open the arm. Yeah, that's it. Try to open that.
Classical ballet, this is not. To show Nijinsky's unraveling, Guillaume has to hurl himself onto the floor, thrashing on the stage.
There's some jumps where you just crash. You just have to kind of forget that, it's gonna hurt.
It is physically punishing, and the worst of it comes at the end of a grueling 2.5-hour performance that sees Guillaume on stage almost the entire time.
There's moments where you just, you wanna puke, but.
There's moments when you want to puke.
Absolutely. Even just in the rehearsals now, it's crazy. I have to condition myself. you rehearse to a point where you can't go anymore, and then you have to keep going.
Developing stamina over the next 6 months will be key, and tapping into the training he spent his life perfecting. It was in his hometown of Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, that Guillaume got his start.
When you grow up, it's pretty sort of assumed that as a boy you will play hockey and you will like beer.
His parents had another idea. They set up a dance school, and Guillaume was in ballet slippers at 4 years old. Here he is at 8 in the front row, playing a soldier. By 12, he was playing a prince, a role he's reprised several times as principal dancer with the National Ballet. What makes him stand out, though, is his diversity as an artist. Guillaume is also an award-winning choreographer and composer.
How unusual is it that you'd see a triple threat like Guillaume?
He sings too. It's very rare. It's very rare.
It makes the parallels between Guillaume the dancer and the dancer he's to become on stage all the more profound.
There are many parallels. Nijinsky was obsessed with his art. It was his life. It was everything to him. Guillaume is a man obsessed with dancing, acting, choreographing.
But can he withstand the emotional and physical toll the role demands?
There's only very few men who have ever done the role because John Neumeier is incredibly picky about who gets to do it.
Pressure?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. You feel like you just want to do it justice.
Next, a real-life romance.
I pursued Heather for a long time. I always had an inkling that I would get her.
On the stage.
It is 1 month to opening night, and the stress of rehearsing 7 hours a day is adding up.
He's got a history of a tibial stress fracture, and you can actually see the bump there. Anything that pulls at that site will cause pain.
Athletic therapist Paul Paputsakis works to release the tension in Guillaume's muscles. Not only does he have a stress fracture in his right leg, Guillaume also has Achilles tendonitis in his left, a nagging injury that could heal if he was off his feet. Instead, it's become chronic.
It sets us back. He doesn't just have nothing to do all day like the average person who can just work on the Achilles half an hour a day and feel better in a couple weeks.
I have weeks where I think it's healed, and then I have other weeks where I can't even walk down the stairs.
It's now a matter of managing the pain and seeing Paul multiple times a week. To mitigate any further injury, Guillaume must rely on his technique and pay special attention to how he lands his jumps.
It's so fast. And then I'm here, I have 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Any re-injury at this point could sideline him for the opening.
From the beginning, please, Andre.
And as that premiere nears, attention shifts to the other details. Costumes, quick changes, props, anything that could trip him up.
This is gonna be a hard one. All I know is like when I get to the second act and stuff, I can't clear. And it feels like it's gonna rip here.
Every spare minute is spent rehearsing. Guillaume works through his breaks, finessing the moves.
Faster, 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 faster.
Guillaume is now burning so much energy, there's concern he's losing too much weight.
Do you think are these Guillaume's trousers?
If there is levity to be found anywhere for Guillaume, it is in the ballet's leading lady, Nijinsky's wife, played by Guillaume's real-life wife, Heather Ogden.
Your pants are really high.
Yeah, it's the period piece. What? I'm gonna wear this for class every day.
It's like a leopard.
Their courtship comes straight out of a storybook.
Don't embarrass me.
Trust me, I've been working, how many? 6 years to try to not embarrass you.
Beginning when they were cast as leads in the greatest love story of all time.
You were Romeo, you were Juliet.
Yeah, that's when we kind of got to know each other.
Who pursued who?
That's very clear. That's me. I pursued Heather for a long time. I always had an inkling that I would get her.
Offstage, they make a home together on the east side of Toronto.
She won't just be in the kitchen doing her own thing by herself and me watching TV or something. Like,
We'll
always
we
be
do it
together.
While on stage, their chemistry has become so strong, people now write in to complain when they're not partnered together.
Nijinsky will be incredible to dance together because there's that loving relationship with us offstage.
I've read that because you know each other so well, you've got little signals that you share with each other.
Yeah.
If you're lifted in the wrong way, you might chirp and he'll know what you're saying.
We try not to, but things happen. So I can tell, like, if I push myself too far forward, it's like I want to tell him. So I'll be like, and then he knows to, like, fix me back.
Yeah,
but
it's a silent art form. But
once in a while.
once in a
During
while,
a
we'll do
performance?
Yeah, no one can really hear.
But it's Heather who would have to be there for Guillaume when he shows up at the theater for his final dress rehearsal with an infection.
Next, behind the scenes. On opening night.
It is 24 hours before one of the biggest tests of Guillaume Cotet's career. The final dress rehearsal of the ballet Nijinsky. And Guillaume shows up sick.
I'm actually not feeling that well today. So I don't want to be too out of it. So I just took a little bit of Sudafed with ibuprofen.
Last night, Guillaume came down with a fever.
An hour and 10 minutes to get warm, so I'll have to see the doctor before the show as well.
The doctor prescribes Guillaume antibiotics for a sinus infection. But fearful it will affect his performance, he doesn't take it. This last rehearsal is a test. To show the ballet's choreographer, John Neumeier, Guillaume is stage-worthy. But at the end of 2.5 hours,
Your hat is too big.
a few words of comfort for the cast.
It's been kind of up and down, and in the end, kind of rushed. I would have liked to have a little more time, so that everything could be a little bit more worked out. But I think you're going to have to do that yourself.
I'm pretty drained and still a little bit sick. The emotion is very hard when you're kind of drowsy and sick and so on. So you gotta really stay focused.
Depleted, Heather takes Guillaume home to rest.
You're gonna feel better tomorrow.
I think so, yeah.
In less than 12 hours, he will have to be back at the theater for final notes. And then, curtain. There is a lot riding on the success of tonight's show. The National Ballet, like most ballet companies in Canada, relies on grants and donations to keep it afloat.
Front doors are now open.
And so ticket sales are crucial. And staging a relatively unknown ballet like Nijinsky is a risk.
Yep, just into the auditorium here. Thank you.
Guillaume returns to the theater 2 hours before curtain, focused. His cold has lifted somewhat, but the symptoms remain.
You think about tonight as being that night, you know, one of the most special nights in your career in a sense. But then you have to remind yourself that it's in no way the end. It's just the beginning of something new.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 5-minute call. 5 minutes, please, to the top of Act 1.
He rehearses quite literally until the last possible second, until he makes his first entrance. The ballet takes the audience through an emotional kaleidoscope, at times graceful, others sorrowful, even maniacal. Backstage, there is little time for rest.
Second.
Guillaume is spun through a dizzying sequence of quick changes. This one lasts just 50 seconds. And it's in those brief moments of respite we get a candid sense of how he's really feeling. As the ballet nears its end, all the stamina Guillaume has been building up is put to the test. Dancers run off the stage, doubled over in exhaustion. It is a performance critics would herald a triumph. An homage to one of the greatest male dancers that is now giving rise to another.
I think I'm realizing actually that I'm dancing for me and the people I'm doing it with. It's really a place where you forget the world, you forget yourself, you forget your worries, you forget how you got there or what's going to happen after. You're just right in that moment, and that's a beautiful place to be.
A place on stage that is Guillaume Coté's. We have updates tonight on two stories we brought you earlier this season on 16 by 9. First, you may remember our story on a professional basketball team that landed up in Summerside, PEI of all places, and along with it, 7-foot giants from places like New York, LA, and Chicago. They're called the Summerside Storm, and despite finishing second to last in the league a year ago, this time around they made it into the championship finals. In a best-of-7 series, the Storm eventually lost to the London Lightning in Game 5. Still, the town of Summerside threw the team a party, and hundreds came out. Congratulations, you guys. Next, a development on a story we call The Investigators, about a Canadian husband and wife team of private eyes who were wanted on fraud charges. Since our story aired, Cullen Johnson, a former Toronto police officer, and his wife Elaine White were indicted by a grand jury in the state of Virginia. When Eric Cunningham and his wife split, he thought the property settlement would be straightforward.
You didn't expect it would be a big deal, as far as divorces go?
No.
After all, Eric had been upfront about all the assets the couple owned. But then his wife's lawyers served him with papers saying he was hiding huge sums from her.
They alleged that I had secreted $2.4 million Canadian offshore in 18 different tax havens.
Did you?
No, of course not.
His wife, it turned out, had hired these two private investigators, Elaine White and Cullen Johnson, to dig into his financial assets.
But they were not going to malign my reputation and get away with it. So I started to fight back.
Eric decided to investigate the investigators and discovered what he believed to be a hoax, that the private eyes had made up sophisticated-looking bank documents with his name on them. He called the police, the Law Society, and the Private Security and Investigative Services branch that governs private eyes.
My complaint was brushed off.
What do you mean brushed off?
Ignored, totally ignored.
So Johnson and White were able to continue to cultivate clients unchecked, even after another private investigator, Gary White, spotted problems when he was hired to do some fact-checking into one of their files.
What did you find?
Bank accounts didn't match up with the particular banks that were identified. Telephone numbers didn't match up. Some of the people named in the report that was supposedly employed by these banks couldn't be found.
Finally, in the spring of 2009, 2 years after Eric first complained, Ontario police charged White and Johnson with fraud. The couple entered a not guilty plea, then hopped on a plane to the Caribbean, where authorities allege they continued to do business. White and Johnson avoided their date with justice in Canada, but they didn't escape the law. Last September, they were arrested in the Turks and Caicos for a minor immigration violation and thrown in this prison. Then, just last month, they were extradited to the U.S. to face fraud charges in the state of Virginia.
I was gratified because it caused me to conclude that that was the end of the crime spree, and that innocent victims, whether they were in Canada or in the United States of America, would not be subjected to the kind of hit-and-run manufactured litigation support that these two apparently have been engaged in.
An alleged accomplice, Canadian Theodorus Grontis, was also charged with tax evasion. Cunningham says he's happy the matter is being dealt with by U.S. authorities, but wants the Canadian system to account for turning a blind eye for so long.
They had a chance to shut these people down late 2006 and certainly throughout 2007 when I made my complaints. I think if had they done that, then this carnage that had gone on in the United States wouldn't have taken place, and a number of people that have been victimized in Canada wouldn't have been victimized.
And that is our broadcast for tonight. This week on our website, global16by9.com, you can find a conversation with the producer of our story on convicted psychiatrist Aubrey Levine. Until next Friday, I'm Carolyn Jarvis. From all of us here at 16 by 9, thanks for watching.